a small place, kind of off the beaten track. It's not what we would have expected for such a great champion, for such a famous person, simply. So, yeah, it made me a bit emotional, I must say.
I can imagine. Well, everything's happening today. We are jumping straight into this game. Richard Rapport is taking on Levon Aronian, now playing for the US, and they have both been struggling a little bit so far in the tournament. Richard, with the white pieces in this game. So what kind of opening are we looking at?
It's the Sicilian defence, but I think I want to pass this one on to Simon. It's not the most usual Sicilian, right?
No, I mean, I've seen Richard do this stuff before, and this is why so many people love Richard as a player, because he's bonkers, basically. And we were talking about personality reflecting in their chess play, and I don't know what Richard is. You know, I don't know him so well, but the strange move, Dave, this is G4, right? And this is a way to try and gain space on the king side. It actually makes some sense, but it is a very committal move. Pawns can't go backwards, as we've seen. So it's a unique position maybe already, right? Yeah. Possibly.
Totally. Very rare, at least.
I mean, now we're in new territory. Before that, only one game had ever been played like this. It seemed to be a trendy idea, actually. You know, I saw a few grandmasters try it out in 2021, 2020. Something I've never actually seen before. But OK, I'm all eyes. I want to know what this idea is.
And the funny thing is, this variation, so white started, OK, obviously it's Richard Rapport. He's going to put a knight on the edge of the board at some point, unexpectedly. He's just done that now. But this variation with G4 on move 3, I actually recommended this to a student of mine, I think it was a couple of years ago, and they were like, no, it's too ugly. It's, do you know anything about chess? And I was like, wait, who's the teacher here? Who's the student? So, yeah, I mean, it has a lot of point what white is doing. White is gaining all the space on the king side, because that's likely where black's king would love to castle. I'm not sure that's going to happen anytime soon. Aronian, look at his pieces. They're just not out. And meanwhile, Rapport grabbing all the space. Yes, Aronian's grabbed space on the queen side, but that's less relevant right now. And I think the space grab that Aronian's made, it only makes it less likely that Aronian's king is going towards that side of the board. So, yeah, it's such a weird, wacky position that it's hard to draw kind of specific conclusions about it, because we will see more surprises over the next few moves. But either way, white's setup does have some logic, and at least he's better developed than black right now.
Well, this is the first game today for Levon Aronian, actually, because he was supposed to meet Timur Rajabov in the first game today, but Rajabov is out. He pulled out because he is sick. So that was a walkover win for Levon. And let's take a look at the results from the previous round. We did have quite a few draws in that one, but Levon Aronian, he did get 3 points against Timur Rajabov. Duda in a dramatic game against Arjun Ergaisi, 3 points for Duda Ariantari, a win for him against Wojtaszek, and Lenya Dominguez, we did see him win his game against Ju Wenjun. So the standings, and please interrupt me if something dramatic happens on the board, but standings. Right now, we still have Sam Sevian on top of the table, 21 points, 2 points ahead of young Christoph Duda. It's all about the youngsters. Look at that. Jeffrey Zhong in third place with Arjun Ergaisi on the same score. Mamad Yarov, the oldest player right now, towards the top of the table. Anish Giri is inside top 8, and so is Levon Aronian, and so is Richard Rapport right now. But I did see our stats genius Ty update that Aronian currently only 52% chance to qualify. So we need still points to secure a spot in the knockouts. And we do have a few moves.
We do have a few moves, and it's really heating up. It's only move 11, but white is burning a lot of bridges in order to launch an attack against the black king. And black's king did indeed commit to this side of the board. So Richard's saying, OK, I'm going to go straight for you. And Simon, this really reminds me of a Dutch defence, just with colours reversed. And it's like a super-powered version for white.
It does, yeah. I mean, it's a nice little pyramid he's created as well. I kind of like these patterns. You know, that pawn chain, 4 pawns in a row supported. But this is exactly what you were saying earlier, David. I mean, you know, forget about what the computer says. Chess is often about king safety. And it's also about getting the type of position you enjoy playing. And I think nearly everyone prefers attacking rather than defending. It's much more fun in general. That's not everyone, but nearly everyone. And Richard is certainly one of those players. So he's picked an opening that gets him into a position where he can attack, where he gets out of theory. He's not really a theory man, and he can have some fun. And that F-pawn, which you get in the Dutch, is going straight up the board towards Black's king. And I would be feeling actually very uncomfortable if I was Black here, just because I can see a lot of things happening in this position. So, yeah, I mean, it's looking like what Richard wants anyway, this position.
Yeah, it looks good, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I mean, to me, it looks very scary. I mean, the white knight on the rim has some lovely ways into the position. As well, you know, it's just the Black king is a target. Yeah. Oh, look at it! He literally doesn't care, does he? He's just going straight in. You know.
I love this move for two reasons. Firstly, it looks like a pawn storm, but he's also opened up a path for Her Majesty, the Queen, to enter the attack. Oof, this looks super scary. It's definitely breaking a lot of rules. It's very committal, but if it works, if he wins this game quickly.
So, for example, you know, just to elaborate on your queen move, you know, that would be very to say Black makes some non-moves, and then we could see a nice mating attack that went, queen, and then suddenly the pawn, F-pawn comes, and once that pawn steps forward.
Or this pawn steps forward, okay. Yeah.
Then
the queen can come in.
I mean, it's like, forget what the computer is saying, oh, Black's a little bit better. This is where you've got to turn off the computer, because just facing this, it's like literally you're stuck in the middle of a road and a bulldozer is just coming towards you and you freeze. And it's like, oh, my words. If you get out of the way, you'll be OK, but you've got to get out of the way. And actually, it's now shot up the computer in Richard's favour, and I would not be surprised if there's some big move here, maybe F6 or something, David, do you think?
So if we backtrack, just in this position, Black decided to get rid of one of the white knights. Makes sense, but he's lost the bishop hand. Simon, you mentioned F6. Why not?
Yeah.
F for forward, and F for forward means throwing the F-pawn forward. And, yeah, it could be fatal.
I mean, I love it when Richard plays like this. He's a joy to watch, because there's not many top players you can play, you know, get out of theory on move 4 or 5 and then destroy someone as strong as Aronian. I don't know if that's going to happen, but he's just going straight for it. I mean, you mentioned caveman. Yeah. This is caveman chess at its best, you know.
He's attacking a knight. He's trying to rip the shelter around Black's king open. One thing Black should never get tempted to do is play pawn takes pawn right now, because suddenly the Black king is just doomed. It's just on an open line. There are squares around to checkmate it. The white queen is going to come in. The white bishop's going to come in. Everything is pouring forward. So Black cannot touch this pawn. He needs to maybe move his knight out of the way, but where? That is the big question. Maybe, I was about to say, maybe this square, just to blockade white's pawn here. So, for example, pawn takes pawn now would likely be met by just a rook move, and Black now would use the white pawn as shelter. It's a bit of a weird pawn structure, actually. The Irish pawns.
Yeah.
This is tripled pawns. Yeah, it's not ideal long-term for white, of course, but short-term you have kind of conquered the dark squares here. So what is the follow-up? That's the question here. Do you capture this pawn? Do you leave the tension? Do you just take a time out to maybe capture this pawn in the centre instead?
He's taken the pawn and... Oh!
OK, he does.
He does capture the key. But, OK. But now the queen can come in and...
Yeah, it's super tempting for the queen to come in, maybe for the knight to start doing a dance towards the Black king. Lots of options for white.
I love this idea of the knight moving in, David. I mean, but I guess Black can at least exchange it off. Yep. I mean, that knight coming in that route you mentioned is a really scary idea.
Scary, yeah.
And you can also see the dark square bishop. If you've got to look at all your pieces when you're attacking. You should look at your pieces near your opponent's king. Can they do anything? David pointed out that knight jumping in. But then you've got to try to involve all your army. It is your army. And again, David highlighting a piece there, which looks like, you know, the dark squares. Let's get it on lined up against the king. And there's some obvious ways you can do that. By, for example, David pointed out here, putting it on that diagonal. So there's a lot of tempting options here. Maybe that's the only problem that Richard has, a bit too many tempting options in some way.
Yeah, and he's barely paused for thought until this move, Richard. This is the first time he spent more than 1 minute for a move, and it's because he realises his position is so promising for white. This bishop, if it enters the action, it's unchallenged on the dark squares. It will conquer the dark squares and simply win the game. So if he can get this piece into the play, It's not clear how this move that I mentioned, getting onto the diagonal, looks nice and pretty, but at some point at least, I'm not sure what black plays, but at least you can block it out with this pawn for now. So this diagonal, you can't quite conquer it yet. Just too many tempting options. I'd be still so tempted to move the knight round this way, maybe to even retreat. Oh, he just, yeah.
This is very clever because he's avoiding that knight exchange but going for your same plan. Well, it looks clever. I don't know if it is, but it makes sense as well, even if the computer hates it.
Computer will hate any human move.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to recapture this pawn. This pawn for black is stuck right now due to a pin along this diagonal. So black's central pawn is going to drop. Then the material will be balanced, but also the white knight might want to sneak around this way. First, Aronian attacks this foot soldier, this guy. Okay, that's clever. It's attacking this pawn, but also defending the bishop so that the pin is broken along the long light square diagonal.
Yeah.
Maybe this is something that Richard might have underestimated. Is this a real threat to take this pawn for the black queen?
I think it is, actually. I mean, I think the queen is within touching distance of her king, because the natural move that I was thinking about is just ignore the pawn, introduce the queen into the game. But then again, black's queen is very active, and suddenly you can start thinking about some counter-attacking possibilities as well.
This is very sharp, isn't it, Ivanka?
Totally sharp. It's wild. It's what we love about chess. We don't quite know what's happening, and that deep, dark forest of complications.
Yeah, so it's really sharp. Let's see what the players come up with, and I'm really excited about what's coming because I have a feeling this game is going to end in some checkmating attack. I'm just not sure who's going to be checkmating who. At the moment, it looks like white's been doing all the running, but Richard still needs that momentum, that creativity to continue.
Yeah.
And
obviously, okay, he's going for a more sensible approach here.
Okay.
And I suppose the point is the black knight's going to be attacked in some variation. So
if this knight, I mean, white's knight is so strong, maybe he has to remove it, Aronian?
what's his plan if it gets removed? You know, it's going to be.
I guess he wants to take with a pawn to stop black going queen takes pawn, but you don't really want to take with the pawn in general, do you? I mean, I think Aronian's chances have improved by this.
Yeah, maybe we can just show this because it's a really critical moment, and taking with the knight, it's strange to me, especially the fact that he only spent a minute or two on this move because it is such a crazy position. Both players really trusting their instincts in this game so far, but this knight is too strong for white in the centre, so black should remove it. He has just done so, and as Simon mentioned, the whole idea must be to take with the pawn, because if you take with the bishop now, then this queen can swoop in with a check. And this is really, really frustrating because the king would love to hide in the corner. It just gets checked again at the very minimum. And at the very minimum, black can force a draw. If you drop back with the bishop to block, now suddenly black is the one attacking you. The queen, the bishop, and the knight attacking the bishop. This doesn't look ideal. Black's also a pawn up. So is the idea to just recapture with a pawn, but then suddenly you've blocked your own bishop in. And these guys are all isolated.
Black's got a lovely outpost in front of that pawn as well. I mean, you can
never kick these knights away now.
Yeah. So this is looking better for Aronian than it was, I think.
Hang on a second.
Okay, typical, typical. He doesn't care. Take a pawn with check.
Oh, but will we see a draw? Will we see Aronian just try to give checks with the queen, try to repeat the position? I don't know here. I think Richard knew that he'd blown it slightly. And yes, he's attacking the black rook, but if the black rook moves, maybe he has time to start coordinating his pieces, bringing the white queen out, for example. But the question is, if black wants a draw, does Aronian want to draw? Is Richard gambling on the fact that Aronian will go for the win, allowing him to play for the win as well? Difficult moment.
And you called it that. Rapport is just happy with the draw. He's just taken a lean back on his chair. Meanwhile, Aronian there in his basketball shirt, he is considering. But we've actually seen Aronian refuse draws. You know, he's actually consistently played for the win. And now, as we're closing in on the last day of the preliminaries, he has to go for something. It's his moment, right? Oh.
Yeah, but
such a tense moment.
It does come with risk. If you play for the win, it could rebound. That's happened several times on Aronian. Will he be scarred by those memories? Playing for a win against Eric Gaisi, losing that game.
We got to take a bet, right? What do you think? Do you think he's going to be happy with the draw?
I think he'll play for a win. I'll start Elf. I don't know why. Just think he will. So there you go.
How about you, Ivanka?
I think he will play for the win as well.
I think he'll take the draw.
Okay. All bets are on. What do you guys at home also think is going to happen? Will Aronian risk it or will be satisfied with a draw? Tweet us using the hashtag ChessChamps. And OK, it looks like David is going to maybe edge our bet. But this is very professional. Just repeat the position.
There we go.
You guys were right.
There we go.
No draw, no repetition.
No draw, yeah.
I think the queen check is quite clever because it stops white's queen going to that square. And I mean, Aronian is a real fighter. If there's any way he can play on, then he will. So that's what he's done.
Yeah, and the two knights are not necessarily worse than the two bishops right now. Black also has an extra pawn, which does kind of help a decision to take a risk and play on to avoid a draw. So it's all up to Rapport now. How can those kind of lazy queenside pieces, the white queen, the white bishop, and the white rook in the corner, how do they join the action? If you're pawn down, you need them to start playing as a team, those white pieces. I'm expecting the white queen to develop. I'm not sure exactly where. And yeah, it's really complex still. The evaluation bar might have finally settled down towards the center, but that's not to say the position is calm. It's still a weird, wild position. And okay, attacking the black queen. This bishop drops back. This makes some sense, I guess, just forcing the black queen to make a decision. She might get kicked around a few times on her way out of white's camp there. Yeah. I'm still slightly surprised he played for the win, Aronian. I'm a bit gutted I lost that bet. But,
did we have anything on the bet? Because we used to have...
we didn't bet anything.
I think during the World Championships, you owed me quite a lot of beer, David.
Yeah.
I think we were betting the odd beer, or should we say like 4 or 5? Yeah. So I think we need to introduce this again.
Not sure I can afford that now. Yeah, the white rook lifting. You love these kind of rook swing ideas, Simon.
I do, yeah. I love the rook swinging over. I mean, we talked about the swinger plenty of times in the past, and it's covering a lot of squares here. But I'm just trying to work out whose king is weaker here. And I'm actually thinking maybe Richard's king is actually the one which could be in a little bit more danger in some variations. I mean, the black knights can jump forwards. I don't know if you want to do that straight away. The black rook has potential, which is at the moment stuck behind the black knight. But there's quite a lot of ideas here, David, I guess, that black has. Maybe black's got more ideas than white, easier to play.
As you mentioned, the knight could jump forward and then the black rook could start swinging down into white's camp. But Aronian, I mean, these two players love to surprise us, right? And in this position, what a move. I'm not sure this would even cross my radar, to be honest. It's so counterintuitive always to allow en passant to capture like this. And is this tempting right now? Should white capture this pawn as if it just moved one square? Or should white leave it and just maybe get on with swinging his rook across, hoping that, for example, if the queen comes, he can block, and then at some point the white queen can come into the attack? It looks really complicated. Maybe Aronian's idea is to offer a queen trade here to stop the white queen from entering the black half. Black is still this one pawn up, and any queen exchange might well favour him. Suddenly, as you mentioned, the black knights are coming. The black knight could dance into this square. Still unclear, to be honest, who's better in this endgame.
Yep.
It's such a weird position.
Totally weird. Somehow my vibe is saying to me that white perhaps shouldn't capture the pawn, should instead leave it on the board. I agree with you. Perhaps the endgame is the best chance. You know, white does have the bishop pair. You know, it's a very powerful weapon. They can create a lot of damage. So I'm predicting that the rook will attack the queen.
Yeah. The problem with capturing en passant here is that the black pieces will come into the action. Maybe the knight, maybe the rook. And actually maybe with the rook, just so that you can meet this one with a check. Still mighty complicated, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think Aronian's last move, you said that maybe you wouldn't think about this move, Dave, but it's a class move, isn't it? F5 is really a clever move, because also by using that pawn, you're grabbing some more squares for black. You know, that pawn is controlling more squares in your opponent's half. And it just looks like a good move. And it kind of feels like Richard's position is kind of like getting worse here, worse and worse, move by move. The bishops are not really doing anything. The black knights look more scary, and black's pawn up as well. So good decision by Aronian to turn down the draw in the end.
Yeah, at least in practical terms, it feels like he's still got some control.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of control. So, yeah, let's see how the players react. They have slowed down. I thought this game would be a bit like some of Aronian's games yesterday, where, I don't know if you were watching, Simon, but when he played Hans Niemann, for example,
No,
I mean, I think they were on move 35, and Aronian still had more time than he started with. But, OK, we did see en passant, a pawn exchange there, and this variation we showed. Black giving a check.
looks so dangerous for white in this position, and for black, but really just dangerous, doesn't it? Danger. And, well, I guess he has to get rid of that knight now, doesn't he?
Too strong.
Too good.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are some traps here. For example, if you bring the white queen forward and give a check, I think that would actually backfire. Maybe we can show this because, of a very, very sneaky move here. Aronian is threatening checkmate in one move. He's threatening to take this bishop with his queen, trapping the white king. And if white does give a check, it looks like you're counter-attacking here against the black king, but suddenly the black rook will just sidestep, blocking, and white's queen, if it moves, if it captures the knight, for example, still, this is checkmate, because the black queen now is protected by its rook. So that would be a huge blunder, as Simon mentions. I mean, if it were a blitz game, at least I wouldn't even calculate. Just remove that knight, and Richard does that. The queen steps back to capture. Whose king is safer? That's still the key question, right?
That is, yeah.
Suddenly white is threatening some checkmating ideas, taking this pawn, hitting the black king.
What normally happens in these crazy games, everything gets swapped off, we get to a very boring ending, and it's a draw. It's always the way. I don't know why that is. You get the most, stupidly crazy positions and just everything, calms down. But we could even see that now, couldn't we? I mean, white has a very strong threat. This is double power, the queen and the rook. And black can maybe move the rook to force some exchanges if he wishes. He's a pawn up. You can certainly think about going into an ending.
And then everything could get hoovered off. What do you think about this ending? As you mentioned, pawn up, but winning chances?
I mean, I think, white's doing OK here with that move you're pointing out, and black's pawns are very weak in this position. So I wouldn't have thought white's in too much danger in this ending. Black could be in danger in some positions even. I don't know. What do you think?
Rook and bishop tend to work a bit better than rook and knight in general, and you're right. Lots of weaknesses to deal with. Yeah. For example, if the knight drops back, you can start going after these pawns as well. I think this is not what Aronian wanted when he turned down that opportunity to draw earlier, so he'll be looking at something else in the current position. But what else? Do you drop back with a knight to defend this pawn? Knight on f8, there is no mate, but you do lose this pawn. Suddenly I'm liking white's chances.
Yes.
I'm so fickle. I mean, I think we all are.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of changes every move, this one, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's
keeping us all in suspense as well. That's what we like about chess. Anything can happen. All three results are possible. Yep. And, there's no such thing as an easy game, actually. You still have to find the moves, and it looks like we might be headed into the territory of the endgame that David earlier showed us, that where black is to pawn up, but still not out of danger. Still a lot of excitement to be had. And, the players are keeping us entertained with their spectacular chess. And, of course, we love to see when you guys get involved in the action. So please share with us how you're watching the tour from. Share us where in the world you're watching us, who you're watching with, maybe some animals. We do like our pets. And you can do that by tweeting us using the hashtag #ChessChamps. And we will feature them on the show.
Yeah. We haven't seen Aronian's little dog for a while, have we?
No, Punchuk.
But he's probably in the US, right? Yeah. I think they brought Punchuk to the US when they moved.
He couldn't have left it in Armenia, could he? He can't leave his dog in Armenia. He can't do that.
It's a lucky mascot.
No. He's got to take it to America.
Yeah.
It's actually quite complicated, right?
Yeah, especially America. He probably needs a passport, needs to be ID'd, make sure he's not a threat to the national security.
Yeah.
These kind
medical
of things.
check.
Yeah, medical check. Yeah, probably a long process. So, well, I hope he's got his dog.
I think he does. I think it's in the US, where he lives in St. Louis. But right now, Levon is playing from Armenia, his birth country. And he revealed to us a few days ago that it is because he is sort of transferring over to India, where the Olympiad will be played in a few weeks. He is going to be on the American team, and Armenia is closer to India than the US.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, we won't see Rapport at the Olympiad because he hasn't yet transferred over to Romania, and I guess he won't be playing for Hungary. So that'll be a big miss. That's a pity.
David, would you ever... Obviously, you live in Norway now. You're an Englishman, really. But would you ever consider... You're good friends with Magnus. You know, if Magnus sort of said, David, I need you to become Norwegian. You know, here's $1 million.
Depends how high the bribe is. If it's 1 million kroner, maybe.
I think that would tempt anyone.
If it's 1 million euros, maybe. I think England need me more than Norway, though.
Definitely. We need you in England, David. We need you.
Norway are 4th seeds at the Olympiad. It's incredible.
It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, this event coming up soon is it's incredible.
Yeah.
Let's hope they do better than their female football team, shall we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, some exchanges have happened on the board. We mentioned the Queen's rooks disappearing. This endgame, White was a pawn down. White has regained the pawn at the cost of trading off the bishop for knight. And now it's a pure rook endgame. And I think, unfortunately for Rapport and Aronian fans, this one is fizzling out towards a draw. That doesn't really suit either player in the tournament standings. Both really wanted to win. Now, after another pawn capture, temporarily White's a pawn up, but this check is Aronian's plan, and look at this, the black rook's getting greedy, it's going to grab a pawn on the next move as well, and yeah, everything's disappeared.
Exactly what we said.
Exactly, you called it, Simon.
Just the most interesting game, pieces everywhere, we don't know what's going on, rook ending, draw, you know, it's just the way, karma.
You did say, 15 moves ago, you said that's just how chess works, right?
Yeah, it just happens that way, doesn't it? Sometimes it's strange.
Yeah.
Especially when both players are equally talented, both players are equally kind of sharp and seeing everything, and it's actually been quite a high quality game, I think.
Yeah.
Totally.
Despite the weird, quirky start.
Yeah, I mean, it happens, fizzles out to a draw. Draw is the perfect result for chess. I mean, I think I saw an interview, I think it was actually with Nepomniachtchi, where he said that a draw is the perfect psychological result of a game. You don't feel high, you don't feel any lows. When you win, you kind of have some adrenaline rushes, and when you lose, you also feel some dejection. So you get a neutral state from a game like this, and this is good for the brain, apparently, and the mindset.
There are different types of draws. Sometimes you're completely winning, you mess it up, and it's a draw, you're depressed. If you're completely losing, you save it, draw, you're on top of the world. So,
I mean, I think that's a load of rubbish. I prefer winning. So, I mean,
exactly.
You know, winning's much better, surely. You know, much better feeling.
Yeah. But don't you find that sometimes when you're winning, you start thinking about the future and you can't necessarily go to sleep that easily?
Yeah, but it's an exciting feeling. You know, I don't mind that feeling. Well, OK, I mean, it's nice to be excited because you've got a chance in the tournament, next game's coming up, and it's a really good feeling. I think that's why, why we play chess a lot.
Yeah.
For the winning, you know. It's not the taking part, it's the winning. I don't care about taking part.
That's why I got into the game when I was little, because I just couldn't help myself. I love the winning.
I think when people say, it's the taking part that counts, rubbish. I don't think it is. Maybe a little bit, but you want to win, don't you? I mean, if you lost every game you played, you wouldn't really be enjoying yourself, would you?
I think that's how people truly fall in love with chess in the first place, is the winning, and then they appreciate the beauty later. At least that's how most people I've spoken to experience it. And meanwhile, neither side will be winning this game. It's just one pawn against one pawn, and easy draw. The white king is just going to sit and wait. The white rook will wait. There's no way to actually attack this last remaining white pawn. If anyone's on the better side of a draw, it's black right now. But just because black's king and rook are more active, it's not enough. Not much else to be said. I think Aronian might try one or two little tricks, but Rapport has 7.5 minutes. He's not going to blunder this one away.
Well, easy start to the day then for Levon Aronian. This is the first game he plays today because the first one was a walkover win against Rajapov, who pulled out of the tournament. And this one should also be a quite quick one for the Armenian, and when the game finishes, we'll jump into the game between Wei Yi and Jeffrey Xiong. Jeffrey, he had a fantastic start to the tournament, winning 3 games in a row, and he is currently in 3rd place, doing very well, the young American. And I guess we're getting close to that draw.
Yep. Simply no way to win White's remaining pawn. If Black somehow manages to attack it, White will counterattack by going for the Black pawn. And unfortunately, you can't achieve both of those things at the same time. You can't attack White's pawn while keeping your own pawn safe for Aronian here. So, yeah, not much to play for, unfortunately.
It looks like just a draw, doesn't it? I mean, yes. Yeah.
If the pawns disappear, rook versus rook, easy draw.
Yeah.
Although I might be tempted to play that one out till
Grind like a grandmaster.
If they trade pawns in 4 moves, and then they can play 50 moves, 50 move rule with just the rooks,
Do you
you
know
get to
what?
move 100.
Do you know what I'm looking forward to most about your course, David? A lot of the chessball courses are becoming books.
Yeah.
And I want to see what the front cover of that book will be. You know, that's what. Yeah, I just want to see. I mean, I've got some images in mind. You know, some
We get a post,
artwork.
David.
Yeah. I'll think of something, especially for you, Simon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be a diagram of that beautiful Game 6 from the 2021 World Championship match. But, OK, here we go. This is exactly what we were discussing. As soon as Black goes for the White's pawn, the Black pawn will be attacked.
Yeah.
And you have to be slightly careful here.
Yeah. But the White King is in snapping distance. It just has to move itself off the 4th row so that there is no discovered checks.
Yeah, Black's big threat here, other than King takes pawn, is to push the Black pawn down 1 square, and that is a check. The Black rook will hit the White King. So White's King needs to quickly move. You can actually retreat it, I was about to say. And as soon as Black's King goes to take your pawn, the White King can retreat and kind of cut off. We'll see this, I think, happen in a moment.
Oh.
What we call shouldering.
Why does the bar jump up here?
It's gone a little bit funny, I have to say. I mean, it doesn't look as simple, does it? Or
I think it's
I mean,
still a draw.
is it? Right.
Yeah.
The White
Okay.
King now will retreat.
It will take
Okay.
a step opposite.
Yeah.
So
So this is the opposition.
I mean, you're a pawn down.
Yeah.
I know it's a draw.
Yeah.
The problem is
Yeah.
White's rook will just wait, and I don't think Black has a winning plan. Also, you can step in front of this pawn.
This is the key in rook and pawn endings. There's only 1 pawn left. If you put your king in front of that pawn, generally it's always a draw, right? So this is the ideal thing. Just get your king in front of the pawn, use your rook in the right way, and we're going to probably see that 3rd rank defence at some point.
Yeah. Actually, against the B and G pawns, against knight pawns, as we call it, you can even go really passive. You can just put your rook on the 1st rank and just sit. There's no way to win. So knight pawns, the B and G pawns, are the worst pawns to have extra
Right.
in these rook endgames. As Simon mentions, there are other defences. The Philidor defence, the 2nd rank defence. There are others against other pawns, but yeah, this one you can do anything.
Yeah.
We'll see the position repeat itself, most likely. They're still teasing us.
Yeah.
Still a pawn up.
He's hoping here that the rook is captured. Is that a draw anyway? No, it's not a draw if you capture the rook, so you've got to be slightly careful. But you can just move your king forward, and a rook endgame will lead to this. A rook exchange will lead to this dead drawn king and pawn endgame. You have to be slightly careful where you put the White King, but there we go. The game ends in stalemate. It's a draw.